Okay, guys and girls, welcome to the next episode in our Old Boys series. Tonight we have Alex Tobin, Player of the Year 2011, CCM Golden Boot 2012, Team of the Year 2011, 12, and 13, Team of the Decade 2015, A-League Team of the 20th Anniversary 2025, Best NPL Coach 2019, and Fox Sports and SBS analyst, Patrick Zwaanswijk. Welcome, Patrick.
Wow, that's a great introduction. I didn't get them much.
Oh, well, LinkedIn and Wikipedia come in handy.
Yeah, no, it's like I had a great time, of course, as a player in my time at the Mariners, and I think with the team we had, a young team, we achieved many highlights, and which, of course, today we still talk about when we meet up with each other, and also we like to believe that Monty took that into the team of 2023 and 2024 when again the Mariners were best in the country and with a very young squad and a great mixture between some experienced players and a lot of young talent coming through.
Absolutely. Well, even with all that list of achievements, just what we might go back to the beginning. Who would you say influenced you to become a footballer? And can you give us a small overview of your playing career starting as a junior?
Yes, which would be in Holland, of course. So the biggest influence was both my parents, but mainly my mum. She was a very good football player herself and was my first coach as a junior player. This was in the under four, under fives, under six, under sevens, 3 years in a row, and yeah, she influenced really the love for the sport. At the time, I also played tennis, so it was like I was doing an individual sport where I couldn't blame anyone if I lost, and I was playing a team sport where I could blame everyone if we did lose. So I think that really helped my development later, looking back at it. And this was at one of the local clubs in Holland. It was called TYBB type, and my whole family played there. My dad was their first grade keeper in the team. My uncle played, my cousins played, and so it was logistically that I was going to play there. And across the road was my uncle owned a tennis center, so my mum worked there, and I played there tennis on the times that I didn't play football. And so my whole youth, basically till I was probably 15, I played tennis and football probably 6 days a week, if not seven. So it was influenced really, yeah, really a lot to follow those two sports only. Never had an interest for any other sports, even though I liked baseball and I liked
Mm.
I did like swimming, but I wasn't, good enough at it from a speed point of view. But like it was always football and tennis from day dot, and my interest never wavered. And yeah, actually, I quit football at a younger age, at 15, when I played for the highest competition in Holland and playing against Ajax and PSV and Sparta and juniors and stuff like that. I got yeah, I got scouted for tennis where I was the number five or probably in the top eight of Holland in the under 18s,
Nice.
and I chose to become a tennis professional, which I think I could have done. I thought I was better in tennis than in football, and I still to this day I think I was better in tennis than football. But tennis is a very expensive sport, so it's very hard
Mm.
to especially in that time you need a lot of sponsors, you need a lot of backing, and because my uncle had a tennis center, I was sponsored by Le Coq Sportif, a French brand that was
Mm.
back in the day. I was working at a kind of a rebel sport in Holland. So, and they were really complimenting with the hours. Sometimes I had to travel to Belgium or France or Spain to play the tournaments to claim points to get into in the professional world. And the number ones in the world in the doubles at the time were my friends Harry, Paul Harris and Jocko Elting, and Yeah, I trained sometimes with them, but my mom was a single parent at the time, and I got selected to become a professional, and we had to pay 20,000 guilders back in the day
Mm,
for 6 months, and my mom made probably 15,000 guilders a year. So
mm,
I never thought to ask her maybe to to consider it. So it was, yeah, I had to do it on my own in a way, and that's where I got my strong mentality from to just go look forward and never look backwards. And I think still to this day, that's why I became a football professional when people turned me down and said I wasn't good enough, and
mm,
that didn't adhere to the things I did. So I became number 81 in Holland in tennis, and I had a pretty good career in front of me. But like the financial part didn't make sense for us, so we couldn't really
mm,
invest. It was now, and this, mind you, was in 1991, so it's not like look for sponsors and everything, and
mm,
go and find money somewhere else. And I was just outside of the Dutch junior national team who got sponsored for the trip, so I had to pay it myself. And if you're lucky loser and you stay in a different country and waiting if you might get into the main tournament and stuff like that. So it was a different experience, but it shaped me to who I am today, and to never give up attitude, and to always believe in yourself and the team that's around you.
mm. Well, tennis's loss was our gain, but you'd been in the Ajax academy, hadn't you, prior to that?
Well, after that, actually, so that's how quick it
After
went.
that.
I played tennis professional, and then it's like semi-professional basically, and like because I couldn't make it into the onto the on the tour back in the day, and I my brother actually asked me to play with his mates in the lowest squad possible imaginable in an all-age competition compared to what you have here, and I said no, I can't. I'm in Belgium for a tournament, but the next weekend I was available, and I played a game as a 16-year-old, and scored 4 goals. We won 5-1. I played in midfield, and I got my love back for the game. And then I think a year later, or like within that year, I played for the first team. And a year later, I went to the Ajax Academy, and they just like so there was a kind of a TD at the club, which was Schoten at the time, and they asked me. His brother was an agent, so his brother was a famous agent, and he asked his brother, "Can you have a look at this kid because he's pretty special?" And 6 months later, Ajax just offered me a semi-pro contract without even knowing me, basically. And Spitzkoon was the first great coach of the professionals, and he came to the development squad, and I got selected for the development squad, which was for 16 to 18 or 16 to 19-year-olds to make it actually that reserve squad was after that, but actually to make it in the first team because at Ajax at the time we had some of the best, if not the best, young players and young talents, but physically we were never as good as others because we are technically very competent back in the day, and so I made the Johan Cruyff. It's called Johan Cruyff squad. At the time, the first year it actually started, I got selected for that, and that's how it just went really fast from playing there for 2 years, 2.5 years, and actually after that, Ajax wanted to sign me on like it's called a C grade contract. You got the A, B, and C, and A was
Mm,
Liedmanen and Seedorf and Van der Sar and all those. And then the B contract, I was offered the C contract, but I already signed for FC Utrecht because they were interested very quickly. And one of the best strikers that played for the Dutch national team back in the day actually was the scout, and he said like we need to sign him, and the rest is actually history. But where my tennis actually mentality came in, I went to FC Utrecht with Michael Mols, and we had a really good squad. They actually after 6 months they said like I had a 1 year deal with the 2 year options, and they said like, oh, we're not gonna open your options, and we think it's maybe better if you have a look somewhere else. And I didn't hold a grudge, never gave up, and said that's fine. They went on to the winter break into Spain. I wasn't selected, but that actually freed me up to play for the reserve team. And I played 4 games the first team. We won all 4, And some was the first game was against Feyenoord, and Robin Nailers was the starting striker for Feyenoord, but he was injured and then had to come back from injury, and I marked him and out of the game. And yeah, those 4 games they saw, oh man, like he's the real deal, and they offered me a new deal after that, and I said, yeah, no problem, and yeah, proved them wrong, and then I played 5.5 years in a row, never almost. I think I might have missed 3 games in 5.5 years.
Wow.
Okay, so now it's name drop time. So
Ah,
going back to tennis, like did you go up against like any well-known
It's
names?
now come up,
Like,
yeah.
well, yeah, like
Yeah, well, like I don't know if you know, but like Martin Verkerk was my era, and I actually beat him in a training match, but he actually made the Roland Garros final,
Mm,
and he lost the final, I believe somewhere early 2000s, I think. But Federer, I never played against Federer, but Federer was on the similar tour from the juniors. He was a bit younger, but like because he was so good, he was younger and coming through. And
mm,
but like in tennis now, I played yeah, Jan Siemering, Paul Harris, Jocko Elting. Those guys were yeah, they were the number ones in the world together with the Woodies in Woodbridge and Woodford. So I trained with them. Richard Krajicek was the number 4 in the world. It was the number one in Holland, and so I was in their training squads basically, but yeah, I couldn't afford it to do it long term because
mm.
yeah, we just didn't have the money.
and same with
Yeah.
Ajax because they've got one of the greatest youth academies who, who are some of the more well-known
Yeah.
players that you
Well, your mom and I think Colin and Ellen would know. I'm not sure you would know, but we were the best team in the world. So when I was
Mm,
there, I joined them in 1994, 95. We won the Champions League in 1995. We lost the Champions League final in '96. We beat Milan 1-0 in Vienna. I was there. I was in the extended squad. I didn't make the team, but I was there and in the stadium and yeah, seeing Patrick Kluivert scoring the winning goal 1-0 in the 83rd minute or so. Frank Rijkaard, who was my hero, was his last game. So, but that team had Jari Liedmanen, Edgar Davids, Winston Bogarde, Danny Blind, Marcel Santos was on the bench, Edwin van der Sar. We had Mark Overmars. We had Finidi George. We had Ronald de Boer, Frank de Boer. Michael Reisiger on the right. Clarence Seedorf made his debut that season and coming on against Real Madrid and winning 2-0 as a left fullback. And yeah, he's a year younger than me. So he was also
fantastic players.
a little bit better
mm.
than me, to be honest. And yeah, but that was a fantastic squad. And then Nwankwo Kanu signed the year after. Marcia Santos signed the year after as a reigning world champion for Brazil. But no one could ever make the team because we're unbeaten in 53 games. And the first time I saw Ajax lose in my time was the Champions League final in '96 against Juventus, and so it was just really hard to break down. Louis van Gaal was our coach, but the best thing that I learned was from the assistant coach, or like from everyone around you, from a lot of players, but mainly from my assistant coach at the time. He said, like in normal training games or in positioning play games, and I had the ball, and he said, like, look, I trust you're not colorblind. He said, no, I'm like, no, no, I don't know. I'm not sure why you're saying that, but he said, like, so it's the blue team. The Ajax was light blue back in the day, and we got the red team. I said, like, so you're in the light blue team. I said, like, you're a good defender. I said, when you have the ball, I said, I'll try to give you one advice. I said, when you have the ball, try to play to a player that is better than you. And that could be seen as a player that's better than you receiving the ball and taking the ball on the technical, trying to beat players, creating goal scoring opportunities, all these kind of things. He said, and let me give you another advice. Everyone that you see, whether it's in blue or in red, is better than you. So he basically
Good
told
way to
me if
put
I
it.
had the ball, pass it to any player that was on my color, and then I would be all right. And it's
Absolutely.
probably some of the best advice I've got to just play the game as I see it, do my individual role first, and then add to the team. And that's actually the way I coach nowadays as well, as in not as much in those strong words, because of course it's different when Louis van Gaal tells you and then the assistant coach tells you. But it's actually helpful to know what you're really good at and to know what you're not good at. And the most powerful things, if you know what you're not good at, and you don't do it, you're not going to make those mistakes. So it's a really simple approach, but it's really helpful.
Have you always been a centre back?
No, I started as left winger with my mum in the juniors. Then, like, I think around 12, 13, I became a left midfielder. And at Ajax, I started my at the Johan Cruyff development squad as a left midfielder, scoring 8 goals that year, mainly from corners and late crosses, in attacks. So majority were definitely headers.
That was my
And
next
then,
question.
Yeah, I was going to say that doesn't
yeah.
surprise anyone.
And at Ajax, they moved me from left mid to left back, and from left back to left centre back, and that's where then I got scouted for. Jan Wouters was the coach. He was like one of the great players for Ajax, and was now the reserve coach. But he actually said like to one of my coaches like, I like this guy, the Swanenburg guy, or the Swanen guy. And he just so I knew like if you don't know my name, I mustn't be good enough. So yeah, I already signed with FC Utrecht at the time, and that's where my career took off.
So moving up now to 2010,
Hmm.
why did you choose Australia and the Mariners, or did they choose you?
Um, well, it like depends who you talk to. So if you talk to Graham Arnold, it's a different story. If you talk, it should be the same story. But if you talk to Laurie, there's all different stories, but all similar directions. So I was playing at Knockbreda, and Graham Arnold's mates were my mates. But I never heard of Syndergaard's Mariners, and it was never at even in question to review that. The situation, I was 5 years at Knockbreda. I was one of the club favorites for the supporters and everything, and we created history with the club, coming third in the league and qualify for Champions League with Knockbreda. So that's the highest ever ranked that the club's done, and then we played 4 out of 5 years. We played European, like it was called, not the Europa League. It was like a UEFA League and or yeah, UEFA Cup, I believe it was called. So we did, more than we expected to do. So I had a great time there. I lived on the Belgian border. My kids went to school there, so it was like everything was all right. And I wanted to stay one more year, but they offered me actually a commercial director role. And they said, "Look, you're such an important person in the club, and everybody loves you. You're very good in connecting sponsors with
Mm.
or business with sports, and business with business also then to support the club at the time. So, and that's a massive thing at Breda, where you have like 500 to 1,000 sponsors that actually put money in towards the club. So, and that's where I went back in December, January to help Max Ballard as well to integrate and get him to know more people. So I mentor Max still to this day as well. But yeah, from that point, I got basically Ernest Stewart, who's the TD for, or is the main TD for PSV at the time, at the moment for the last 5 years, and he said, "Look, you're 35, and the other central defender has been at the club for 10 years. He was 34, turning 35. He was much worse as a physical person, so he wasn't gonna remain another 2 years. So if we sign you another year, Rob will be then also next year, and then we have to replace both the central defenders." Mind you, the first 4 years of my 5 years, or like the first 4 years, we were actually the best central duo in the Eredivisie. They call it the Twin Towers, which is of course not referred to many after, of course, 9/11 and stuff. So it's
Mm.
but we refer the two top players and very raw central defenders, and playing against Ibrahimovic, Suarez, and all those guys. It's yeah, they're always better than us, but they didn't like to play against us for Nistelrooy. And So it's a good thing, but yeah, so they didn't want to lose two central defenders a year later, and therefore they said, look, we're going to put the new deal on hold. And I said, well, that's fine. I'm not going to wait. And the next morning, Graham Arnold called me because of one of his mates sent a text to Arnie and said, like, this guy he's a free agent at the moment. And I think, if you're gonna build the Mariners up, he'll be a very good signing. Mind you, Arnie was in South Africa, for the World Cup. And I was in one of our local cafes with a lot of like big sponsors who are my mates playing billiards and thinking about, well, I want to stay one more year. I got an offer from the Graf shop, who was Eredivisie back in the day. Um, I got an offer or two offers from Germany, and then also New York Red Bulls was
Mm.
ready to yeah, had a meeting. And yeah, so from that time I spoke with Arnie. He said like, yeah, it's gonna be. I want to build up a squad. I need some, some experienced players. And are you interested in joining the Mariners? I look, I said the numbers have to make sense. I don't do things for money. I said, but I have to be able to provide for my family that we can just live. I said, I don't need to earn extra more. I said, I just need to make sure that
Mm.
I can afford the rent and I can buy my groceries and that's it. And then I'm happy to review it and see what we can do. So I probably the cheapest foreigner that ever came to Australia. Um, and like, but it was, yeah, probably one of my best choices I think I could have made at a time. But like, it went on for about 2 months. Me, Arnie, and Laurie was the TD.
Mm.
So Arnie told Laurie to get in touch. So Laurie got in touch. But then me and Arnie were doing all the chats and the talks and, the negotiations and like where it should sit and how it worked and how, foreigners over in Australia, how that could work. And mind you, and then he's still in the World Cup in South Africa. So all of a sudden, at some point we agreed and said, like, yeah, that's a number that will work. When can I come? And on the night of the World Cup final where Holland played Spain, they flew me over to Australia. So it's like I left on the 9th of July and arrived on the 10th of July, midnight, and Mossy was going to pick me up at the airport, knowing that at 4 a.m. the World Cup final, Holland playing Spain, is
Mm.
on. So I needed to make sure I got into the Terrigal hotel, quick enough so I could watch the game because some of my mates were playing. So yeah, this is all how it happened. We agreed. I flew over, but they couldn't fly me and my family over at the time. It was just me, and my family flew in the next day. So they left on the 10th of July, arriving on the 11th. And Sharon Pierce organized that at the time, tried to help, but like she was doing 10 things at once. So she did the best that she could within the circumstance and everything. And yeah, but like I arrived and I know that Mossy had to call Arnie in the car because I think the Mariners signed before me. I think they signed a Brazilian player that we actually played against in the Club World Cup. But I think I forgot his name, but he was from Cremio. Was that back in 2006 or seven or something? But he was heavily overweight, a Brazilian striker.
Mm. Mm. I do remember.
I remember.
And so Arnie called and he said like, "Hey Mozzie, how's he looking?" And I said, "Yeah, he's looking very fit." And then the next day they obviously came to the beer garden and I had brekkie there and they said, "Yeah, no, just relax." And I said, "No, no, I want to train." So the next morning I went to Tuggerah and I arrived there and it was actually the first day that they officially were going to train at one location.
Yeah.
So that was the first day. So the 11th of July, 2010, is the first day that the Mariners actually started training at Tuggerah
Yeah.
and never to change location because like people told me, oh, you get like 12 times, you get a different location where you train the next day. I said, well, if that's true, then I'm not going to be here. So it was like, I think that's why Arnie delayed for me to arrive. And
Mm.
because that kind of unprofessionalism we don't have in Europe. But that was
Mm.
all just circumstantial because this is what the Mariners had to do to just make it affordable and continue the club, of course. but that's how it actually happened. And yeah, and again, like my first training session was with Andrew Clark and doing some running, and the next day part of training, and yeah, Adam Kwasnik still knows to today that I was very hard on him because it wasn't personal. This is just how we are in Europe, and
Mm.
straight away swore at him if he made a mistake, which in my eyes was like that, you can't do that, and he froze and like so Arnie after training said to me, he said, man, you need to just like yeah, be a bit nicer to the guys, and like I know it's different in Europe, and I said, yeah, no, I like all the guys. I'm not having a go, but this is in the spirit of the training session. I demand more from my players, and he said that's why I brought you here because I think you'll get it out of him, but you slowly need to get into it. And
Mm.
yeah, this is I think the story of the man is with me, with a lot of us, with me and Arnie actually probably at the realm to start this process of getting the acceptance of players and to get their trust on our side and their respect. And I think everybody played their part, and everybody played their part in all the success that we had in the 3 years I was a player.
Yeah.
Cool. It's interesting.
So,
Yeah.
what was your favorite moment of being a Mariner?
Well, it's an easy, but it's a weird one. But for me, it's an easy one because that should be the goal in the grand final where
Mm.
Arnie told me before the like my ex-wife at now, but my wife at the time told me at home, she's like, I feel you're going to score today. Sorry, tomorrow because we left the day before to go to the Intercontinental in Sydney. And yeah, that was just pass. It's like, oh yeah, just like a pass measure. Yeah, I feel like you're gonna score tomorrow. Okay, great. Yeah. Well, I'll try. And then I did the warm up, and I saw the family, of course, and all the friends, and behind the goal, a lot of our fans, of course, knowing that it was going to be my last game was like was a bit of emotional. But I pulled myself through, and then I just had a decent warm up. Everything was well. I walk into the change room, prepare myself as I always do, and then Graham Arnold, just before I walk out, as one of the last ones to line up, he says like, "I got a feeling you're going to score." Just before we actually walk out, and I was like, "Well, that's a strange thing," because my wife said the same thing.
So did
And
someone else.
Yeah, I would have
So
said
did someone
told you the
else.
exact same thing.
yeah. And then like a lot of people later thank me because they put $20 on it, so for me to be a first goal scorer or something like that. So it was a good thing. But like yeah, 43rd minute, Michael McGlinchey, it's great because the Wanderers that year never got a goal against from a corner or a set piece, not one.
Mm.
And the
Yeah.
only
Mm.
goal they got against was in the grand final the whole year. So their whole season was like unbelievable. Mind you, we played them at home in the competition when it was such a rainy day. It was sold out almost. And we
Yeah.
lost 1-0 because Matthew Ryan missed the penalty. But I actually created the penalty. It was a similar corner. And Kressinger, who had to mark me that day as well, marked me in
Mm.
that game and you pushed me and we got a penalty. And we didn't score and we lost 1-0. But in the grand final, it was a similar thing. Kressinger
Mm.
marked me, and we said like, okay, if he's gonna mark you, make sure we slide block and I make a run to the first post, and that's where the ball was, and it was a yeah clean header and 1-0, and then make the penalty 2-0, and yeah, it was,
Mm.
so that would be of course the highlight, but I believe the grand final away in Brizzy with 52,000 there, like I think a sellout and the first sold out football game that I've ever heard of in Australia, and then such a big one, and ends against Arnie, and Mariners against Brisbane that actually dominated the competition probably in those 3 years from the
Mm.
first grand final to the last, and um, yeah, it was just I won the Alex Tobin Award, which I did not know beforehand, and they called me up actually before the game to do an interview, and they actually handed me the trophy of best player of Australia, and I was like, wow. That's nice. I can play another year, and this is actually how it started, the snowball effect of keep playing and doing the things that I liked and loved. And but I think the biggest joy I had was just playing in front of Mariners fans, but just in front of simple people, if with all respect, like just, there was no bullshit. There was
Mm.
no, you have to do this and that to be liked. It was just be a good person, try to do your best, work hard, and everybody embraced you. Like there was no hard feelings. Yeah, of course, everybody's emotional, and football is emotions, and we should keep that in there because that makes it just a different sport than anything else. But it was just so
Yes.
nice and easy, and I could walk in Terragon, and nobody would recognize you. Where in Holland, I've never had that, and like I couldn't take my family to plays because you get mugged, like not mugged as it, but like as in everybody
Yeah,
goes,
mobbed.
oh.
Mobbed.
Yeah, mobbed.
Mm.
Yeah, mobbed. Yeah, and like where it's your privacy, and I was not really a private person. That kind of regards, but it's just like with your kids and stuff. So it was different. And Japan was a similar thing. Like everybody recognized you, and so yeah, when I came to Australia, I thought like people recognized me because they say, "Hey, mate, how you going?" And then I think with
It's just the
Hutch,
community.
yeah. So I told Hutch, I said, "Yeah, no, man, people recognize me. Yeah, they say every day, hey, man, how you going?" I said, "Yeah, good." And but they never talk to me. They walk on. Like it's a bit weird. He said, like, "No, man, that's just what we say." Like, "Hey, mate, how you going?" And then walk on, not even waiting for a response. And it's like, all right, well, if that's the case, that's when I cut my hair because I always had like a long hair image, and I think
Yeah,
the first year with the Puma hairband, like that was my part of my image in Holland. And I didn't cut. I cut my hair once, and but then left it always like grew it back as long because I was known like that, and that's why I kept it here until like people, man, they don't care. They just just relax and do whatever you need to do, and that's when I cut my hair, and yeah, I basically settled in the lifestyle of being an Aussie.
absolutely.
So, what was your favorite moment at our stadium?
Ooh, um, wow, like. I I think I'll say like a top three. I think one is the really late goal in the last game before the I think the change or replacement of the field. It was against North Queensland Fury, or we won 3-2 in the
Mm.
pouring rain. And after that game, all the fans were allowed to come on the field.
Yep.
Um, and that was like like an important goal because with a home win, came back from behind, and they continue our run actually into two or top three. So that was a good one, and I always got choked by Macca who was following me and putting his arm around me, and so that's the top three. I think Sydney FC at home 7-2 win. Like
Oh
that
yeah.
was like a massive one where we're down 1-0 and then up 3-1 because like we trained the day before on at Tuggerah, and Arnie said like with some tactical initiatives, like we build up from the back, and when you get it, play it into the opposite 10th area where McGlinchey or Tommy Roderick will be totally free. I said like, yeah man, that's not going to happen because in training it was so easy. I got the ball and there's just two players free because they press with the six players or just play through behind them, and these players will receive it in turn and they just go forward. And I said like, yeah, great. Like I said, I can do it here, but in the game it's not going to be. He said, trust me, in the game it will be like that. So the
Mm.
first 50 minutes they pressed high, but we found it hard to get the ball in time around it to the players. And all of a sudden, on a counter, the striker scored 1-0. And then we kept doing it. And I think after 15 or 20 minutes, we found that pass, and it was in Rogic, just a straight ball, which was like, yeah, you couldn't miss it. So I played it. He turned, and it was 4v4. He turned, there
Mm.
was four of us against their back four, which Hayden Fox was playing at the back in the day, and yeah, we scored. I think Macca scored 1-1, and his next pass was to McGlinchey, who came in and turned in 4v4, and it continued like that. And at
Mm.
halftime we were 3-1 up, and this was the game. I think we had 15 or 16,000 people because people were expecting Del Piero to play, but he was injured, so he wasn't there. And in the second half, I think after 60 minutes we were up 7-1 or something, and 6-1 or 7-1. It was like, what's going on? And it was that easy. And yeah, until I think Ian Crook, who's my mate, was on the bench then as an interim, and yeah, I think this is one of his last games. And but yeah, it's like that was a great one, which I thought we played really well. We had the community behind us, and this is where I felt that really, as a player and as the fans, that everybody was bonded and connected, and we were doing something really, really, really different. It felt great. And then the two games against Melbourne 51, the 6-1 at home, where we also destroyed them in that same year, not too long after. And then actually the semi-final at home where we only won 1-0, but it actually got us to the grand final where we were actually, yeah, we were very happy, but because we beat him 6-1 before, it was actually a hard game, and Mecca scored that goal, and I think he scored that year, he scored 20 goals and
Mm.
top scorer in the league, and it was a very important game, but it was a bit of a doubtful one where the fans were full behind us, but sometimes it was like be quiet because we weren't on a roll of scoring
Mm.
goals. We creating a lot of chances, we just couldn't find a net, and they were always dangerous with the players they had at the time as well. So, but that was the 1-0. I think was the hardest game because we knew when we're going to the grand final, we're never going to lose it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so both European based and over here, who would you say was the hardest opponent that you went against, like player wise?
Wow. Yeah, overseas, there's a couple, and there's some really big names, but they were actually not. They're very good. So for Nistroy or uh, Thierry Henry or the Brazilian Ronaldo. I think to be honest, the Brazilian Ronaldo was the hardest, but I was young at Ajax, so he was 16 years old and he was faster with the ball than without the ball. I'd never seen it in my life, and the technique he had, but he was just also robust, strong physically, and like he didn't speak a word of English, so you could kick him and do him, but he just he wasn't. He was actually too fast to really kick him and try to get on top of him. But like Matej Kessman, I think he later went to Chelsea and stuff. But Kessman was one that I played for Nistelrooy and he never scored in 5 years, and he gave me his jersey just because out of respect and we had a good connection. But Matej Kessman, which is not a massive name from that point, he played for PSV with Robin and with Van Nistelrooy, and
Mm.
so with good players around him, with Van Bommel, and they had a massive team. But I tried to kick him, and I did kick him and push him and did every game. Doesn't matter. He didn't even turn, didn't get angry, didn't get upset, and just scored. Suarez had the same. Like I played him like probably 6 or 7 years, like similar assets of that, but I don't think as because you could get under his skin quicker where you get upset, and like he never bit me in my ear or my face, but I know that was his party trick at times. But like
Great.
yeah,
Another musket.
Matej Kessman was like unbelievable in that kind of regard. So I have to say he was probably the best. Ibrahimovic was good, but he wasn't as good at the time that I played him when he was later at Milan and all the other clubs. So. But Kessman was the like top player.
So over here, who was the worst?
Yeah, wow.
Seymour player.
Yeah, like Berisha was like, of course, but Berisha and I were the same. We were like European and battling
Mm.
and fighting, and it was just light emotional. You had the I think Archie Thompson, could be hard because he was just small and quick, but wasn't physically present in that kind of way. But just easy to score. And then you had the Melbourne Victory young boy, the New Zealander, the winger that was really really good.
Rojas.
Yeah, Rojas. Yeah, Rojas. He was like an up and coming, and like he could really really do well. Um, yeah, so played Newcastle Jets with the big English striker, Heskey.
Mm.
He was already a bit
Emil.
older and the
Emil?
end of his career, Emil Heskey, but no, so I think I probably have to say probably have to say, yeah, I would go with Rojas. Like, even though he
Mm.
wasn't always directly my opponent, but the way he played, and it was very hard to continually mark him and to understand what he was doing and when he come inside, and good in combination. He was quick, very confident, good left foot. I think he was one of the best ones. I thought Barisha was very good. But yeah, yeah, I think they were definitely yeah, in the top there.
Did you have any game day superstitions?
Yeah. And I think that was normal until I think I finally got, at the moment, it is my wife now saying that I got ADD or ADHD or OCD. I think I got them all because I always put stuff in the right shape and order, and you get very anal in, like, make sure the two bottles are next to each other, but then you see Rafa Nadal and it became an obsession, and so it's not easy, and I think it's starting to get that way for me to just try to be perfect in my eyes, but it
Yeah.
actually becomes an obsession. And so what I had is half a banana for first half and half a banana second half with a Gatorade there. Always a massage. So I arrived at the club an hour and a half, 2 hours before the game, and then always got a massage to yeah, to wake up the muscles or just to relax, and then for every game outside of the summers when it was get cold, I was always putting the red heat on, or the
Deep heat.
deep heat,
Yeah.
and that was just me. But then also, and this is what actually came from Holland, I put Vaseline in my hair. So every game, especially when I had long hair, I put Vaseline, probably a lot. I put it in my hair to make sure it didn't come, across my
Yeah.
face, and it was always so. You can go to a lot of the photos, especially with a little bit long,
Yeah.
and you'll see how greasy it is. But then I always got compliments when I did, like, I went to the hairdresser and said, "Man, you got so good and thick hair." I said, "Yes, because of the Vaseline. That's what I think is a very good product for you." And but I think I did that for probably 10 to 12 years
Wow.
until I
Hence
got
why he's still got a full
shorter
head of
hair.
hair.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, if you see my brother, he doesn't have any hair. My dad's very, very
Oh my
little hair.
God.
So yeah, it's weird. My mom's got a good bunch of hair, so I probably got it from my mom. But yeah, it's yeah. And then you had smaller ones where I didn't have put
Mm.
your left foot on and right foot on then, but I always had studs and always had a pair of Maltese just to make sure that I had both. And yeah, I always threw my boots into the crowd because I got sponsored by Puma for 14 years, even in Japan, and I wore probably 3 times. I wore them 3 times, and then I threw them into
Mm.
the crowd to make a difference. I did that in Holland, I did that in Japan, and I brought that here so to Australia. So I think there's quite some people in on the coast, if not somewhere, that have at least one boot of me.
We never managed to score one.
Yeah.
I think the next question, I think we'll know who the person is.
I was about to say the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Who was the biggest joker in the team, and who was your best and also worst roommates?
Like the biggest joker, it became Mecca. It became
Oh,
Mecca
okay.
because, like, he was just yeah, whenever we did interviews in the change room, he started actually to climb up those the
Mm.
cabinets on the top, lockers, and just lie there and just be a model and just talk and acting like it was just nothing. And it be started that's how he started to become more and more and more obsessed with that. So he
Macca
was,
actually admitted in his interview that Arnie said, go for it.
yeah.
After the first time he did
Arnie
it,
didn't
Arnie said, keep doing it. It's
Arnie didn't
annoying the hell out of Fox.
Yeah, Arnie didn't like interviews in the change room from Fox or from any, so he tried to
Mm.
keep everybody out as much as possible. But then he became part of the A-League contracts or the club contracts,
Mm.
so it was a protocol that you couldn't resist. So yeah, it was definitely something like that. Hutch was a big joker as well, with leading a lot of things and then just encouraging other people to do some of the tricks for him. But yeah, Mecca took it a long way, and and also became known for it, to be honest, in the 3 years that we did it. The easiest roommate, and still to this day, one of my best mates was Milos Stojovski. So we roomed probably for 2 years together, and yeah, it was always he loves his coffee, and I never drank coffee, so
Yeah.
go out with the boys, and then yeah, I don't even know what he's drinking, but like this and that and X Y. It looked great, and it was great, and you had 5 people drinking coffee, and I had a cup of tea. So I always missed out on that coffee camaraderie where you get the stories and you understand what's happening. So I never drank coffee until maybe 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. So and yeah, so but he was a roommate. I had Sainsbury as a roommate. He was of course young, and was always, yeah, chilled and relaxed and wanted to learn. Worst roommate. Um, Cool. That's a good question. Um, I like it, and it's not the worst, but this is, it's probably a little of a good story, little story. When I think Matt Simon and I, we roommates at the end of season ending trip into
Oh,
to Bali. So we went to Bali, and but whether he was going to Korea or he was coming back from India, or something was going on, and yeah, so we went out all together. He was the first one to leave. And we were then like lost the rest of the group. So by the time I came home with some of the boys, he woke up and like left the room. So it was like, yeah, he was like a good guy, but like at the time wasn't partying as hard as we as some
mm,
of us did. And but again, like great guy, still talk to him a lot now, and one of the fan favorites, of course. But yeah, he was probably the roommate that wasn't there as much because I was missing and he was there, or he was missing when I was there.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so if you hadn't gone into football, what do you think you would have done as a job, and what teammate would you have liked to have worked with?
I would have, well, I think I would have been a professional tennis player because that was really what
Mm.
I was destined to do. Yeah,
It was just sport.
I had to do it in a different way. But like, yeah, I never had an obsession with a job. Like I think as a kid, a lot of kids say like a fire engineer, or like a fireman or something like that. I didn't know. I was working in like one of the rebels, and like I thought like,
Mm.
in sports and stringing tennis rackets and these like that, I thought that was something that I was going to do for a while. But yeah, now I own a construction company, a design and construction company in Sydney, together with Mike Conway's son. So he's my business partner, and we're doing it. Yeah, we're very successful at the moment and very busy. So yeah, that's probably what I was gonna be somewhere in business. I'm a very business orientated person, and yeah, I like to create win-win situations in business. I think that's what's going really well at the moment. And if I would have one employee, probably Monty. That
Yeah.
that I mainly as Europeans, and no nonsense, and like get on with things and don't have excuses. Yeah, I relate that in the business industry, of course, and the modern world is different than when I grew up as a youngster, and mental health is of course a much bigger topic at the moment, for the right reasons than actually when I grew up and when I played, there was no mental health. Like even though
Mm.
we had probably the same issues as is displayed today, you weren't allowed to talk about it basically without people telling you to, and it just basically didn't exist. And
Mm.
2 weeks ago, I watched the documentary of the Brazilian Ronaldo, um, and he actually mentioned it that in the time, I think it was the '98 World Cup final, but that week and that year for him, when he went from PSV to Barcelona and stuff, and and I think it's called The Fall, the Rise, and the Redemption of Ronaldo. And
Oh,
it's a very good documentary to understand what we went through as a player, as a development player,
mm,
and you just had to be tough enough, and you just needed to make it. If I magged a player, which was the captain or much older person, I had to run for my life for 45 minutes in the training gym not to, end up with a scar on my leg or a broken ankle or whatever, because that was just normal. Like, you just
mm,
fight for yourself. And I'm not saying that was good, but like, that was the mentality back then. There was no asking for help. There was no, as a 20-year-old lie on the bench, you get
mm,
a massage. No, you got kicked off. Like, literally,
mm,
you didn't want to be on the bench because you're going to be threatened for a couple of weeks. Try to organize. What do you think you're doing?
mm.
So it's
Um,
yeah, different things.
oh God, yeah, absolutely. Um, so what advice would you give young players wanting to get into football?
I think, like, make sure you stay in love with it. Like, that's the big thing that I think made me from an amateur football to a professional. I fell in love with it for the right reasons, because the ball and the game gave me what I was missing um, while I was in the highest development league in the country, in Holland. So, and I got it back at like the worst pitches with the worst team in the world at the time in an all age competition. But it just got me back to, what I loved about it, about the game, and how it can be so beautiful. And so my advice would be, make sure you stay in love with it. Make sure you do it for the right reasons. So for yourself, with all the
Mm,
support that mom and dad and everyone is trying to give you, but don't become a product of someone else, that do this, don't do that, try this, don't do this. So then you become like less creative and hard to actually find your own direction and become resilient. So don't think that everything just happens for a reason. It doesn't. Like, but if you work hard and you become resilient and you don't just blame other people, I think sometimes the worst coach is actually the best for you to then deal with it and see how you learn. You learn from the worst coach, you learn from the best coaches.
yeah,
Your resilience will continue to do it, and your love will continue to develop. So then
absolutely,
you got the biggest chance of getting as good as you can.
absolutely.
Okay, so if you could have dinner with any three footballers, past or present, who would they be and why?
As in any footballer, so not
Any
the ones that I
Anyone.
played with.
male, female,
Hmm.
passed on,
Yeah, I would.
whatever.
Johan Cruyff would be in the table. Johan Cruyff was. I met him twice, and I played in his team that was in the Olympic Stadium in Amsterdam because of it was the Johan Cruyff tournament, but it was also for charity. And me
Mm,
and my best friend at the time, Dirk Kuyt, we played in a team together with some of his friends who were TV people, and I met the guy, and he just had an aura that you just couldn't go around, and it was just one of the best players that I know. I've never seen him play. I watched some of the videos, but I never really can remember how he played. Of course, we know how he played, but not me from seeing
mm,
it. But
mm,
just the person he was and the things that he changed for the Dutch football. So Ajax and Barcelona were actually, and now Man City, all because the style that he explained to Guardiola and how to play, and he did the
hmm.
same at Ajax. So that's his philosophy. Um, Maradona, because he was my hero, as in from a football player, on how good you can be with all the adversity and everything he did wrong, but like how good he made teams win things, and it didn't matter what team he went to. He go to Napoli and they never won the league, and within 2 years he wins the league and then wins the UEFA Cup, and the semi-final with "Life Is Life," the song where he's just juggling in the warm-up. These things is like the charisma of a player to never doubt himself and just show that he was the best technical player in the world that I've ever seen. And Messi, of course, is there now to challenge that, of course. And the third would probably be um, Sir Bobby Robson. And it's more for a personal reason because he scouted me for Newcastle United, and it's the
Hmm.
one deal that never happened, and I missed out on the transfer to Newcastle United because of yeah, like they asked, I wasn't for sale. So when I was at Utrecht 2002, we made the cup final and played against Ajax, and we lost in the end 3-2. Ibrahimovic scored in the extra time in the 119th minute or something, and but like we should have won it because of an offside goal. I got top four in best players in Holland, but only the top three got mentioned, as in won the gold and silver and bronze boot. There was no
Mm.
fourth, and then that year and continue on. Sir Bobby Robson, it came to Newcastle United came to a game, and I played really well against 20. Then they came against Sparta. They were actually coming for someone else, and I was best on the park twice. And the third time, sure, Bobby Robson came out himself, and again I played well. And so he said, like, I want to buy Zwaanswijk, and FC Utrecht said, well, Zwaanswijk's not for sale.
Mm.
So they didn't sell me. They never sold any player that year, and then the year after, we're 42 million euros in debt for FC Utrecht, and we had to sell players, and this is how Dirk Kuyt went to Feyenoord for
Mm.
1 million only, and other players left. So that's the one thing. If I had a better agent at the time, what much more experienced and understood what we had to do, and gave me advice of the next training when you get the ball, just kick it into the river, and every ball you get, you kick it in the river, they'll let you go within a heartbeat, which is not the best way to go because I liked FC Utrecht as well, and very tough club with great supporters. But that was the one thing I missed out on. But Sir Bobby Robson on his own is like a fantastic character, which what he did with England, the national team, what he did with Newcastle, and
Mm.
just as a like one of the not one of the first, but one of the few that actually got Sir in front of his name because of the person he was and the things he meant to so many other people.
Terrific.
Yeah, well, I heard Dirk Kuyt,
Yeah.
so I've got to ask if you've ever had interactions with a fellow Dutchman, Robin van Persie.
Yeah.
Interactions there, because I'm a diehard Arsenal fan. So
Got to bring
Well,
Arsenal in.
I played against him in the 2004 Cup final against Feyenoord. He was at Feyenoord, and from Feyenoord, of course, I think 2 years later left and went to Arsenal, mainly because of Dennis Bergkamp. But yeah, so we actually had a fight on the field, and in the walk the walk towards the change rooms, and this
Yep.
was actually with the year where Van Marwijk was the coach, who became the Dutch national team coach when we lost the World Cup final. Um, but they had a really good team, but we're up 1-0 at halftime and going down the stairs in the final stadium, and he had a bit of a arrogant, talk, and we were swearing back and forth, and going down the stairs. His captain, Paul Bosveld, came to me and said, like, you know, shut your mouth and walk on. And second half, I was going to start being physical, and after 53 minutes, he got subbed. So,
Ah.
but as a player, what he was doing is like a very good left footer. Was different than most. He wasn't able to always fit in a squad easy. I think better and better. He's now the head coach of Feyenoord, and he learned a lot from Arne Slot as how to manage himself in front of other people. But he's very, very outspoken, or the way he believes his things. But if you look up some videos from him, and then there's an Tuzani, so one of the technical players, Tuzani, who does all these tricks, and it's him to sign another player, and they're unbelievable in their
Mm.
technique. So if you're talking about like a player that with an unbelievable technique that could win games on his own, he was definitely up there in plays that could hurt you and damage you. with ease and still be that cocky person that yeah. It was his confidence, but even we thought he was an arrogant player, where Dutch people are just very confident and say it as is, but like, yeah, we thought he was an arrogant guy and didn't have a lot of people that actually liked him from that point of view. But as a player, what a player.
Yeah, fantastic.
Okay, now to make us feel old, we remember your two kids running around on the pitch after the games, Angelo and Dominique.
Yes, correct.
How old are they now? And did either follow you into sport?
So Dominique is 24. She turned 24 in January. I was there in Holland to celebrate her 24th birthday. And she got a double master's for psychobiology and clinical neuropsychology. So she is a top three in Holland. Yeah, one of the smartest person in Holland in a university, and yeah, is working as a neuroscientist and a brain surgeon analyst in one of the top hospitals in Europe, which is actually in Leiden in Holland. So we celebrated that, and she got a job the 7th of February. So I left the 27th of January, but we celebrated her birthday and we celebrated my 50th and we celebrated her new job and yeah, the double masters that she did. So it's like unbelievable. So I'm very proud. Everybody's very proud of her. And yeah, I basically ask her questions and I asked her maybe how the brain works in a football way. So how can I develop plays, with some comments, and 10 seconds in her answer, I'm lost because it's like listening to a professor that,
Mm.
the way she speaks about things is way above my pay grade, that I'm just like, I don't know what this is going on. So 24 and lives in Noordwijk on, near the Dutch beach, and is doing really well for herself. My son's 22, Angelo. Been doing a little bit of modeling like a couple of years ago with his cousin who's a professional model and tried to do that. He played a bit of football, but with his injuries, couldn't do it. Like he got an accident on the bicycle that damaged his face a little bit, so and therefore like he has a bit of like it might be part of his neck or part of his back that is just sometimes playing up. So he tried
Mm.
playing.
Mm.
Always had like lower back issues. He's taller than me now, so
Oh, wow.
6'4", and but really into the sports school or in the gym. He loves to go to the gym and does that. So very, very healthy. He's doing electrical engineering at the University of Amsterdam as well, and he never like he went to school here, but man, like yeah, I would never see him past year 12 to be honest. And but he's amazed everyone that he really loves studying, enjoying, and he's finding
Mm.
the right path for himself now. And yeah, I spoke to him 2 days ago, and he might come and live in Australia in the next 2 years or so. That's like a part of his plan to be part of my business, but then also become, the co-owner and hopefully can retire me, and then he can take over. So I can focus
The
more on football
succession
and watching football because that's what we love to do.
as a succession plan. That's good.
Yeah, yeah, be great, be great. So, but I don't want to force it upon him. But yeah, it'd be great to see him come back to Australia, 100%.
Okay. Thanks, Patrick, so much. Colin, have we got any other questions?
Um,
Lost Colin. There he
no,
is.
I'm here. Sorry.
That's
Um,
okay.
I'm going to ask one personal one. In regards to, there's been some debate on social media about the Josh Nisbet move from Ross County to Rhoda. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on that one.
Um, it's like I haven't seen much of it. Like I know Nisbet moved to Scotland. I didn't think that was going to be a great one for him, even though I didn't think he was going to do so well at the Mariners. So it's really hard to put in context. But like the European League. even though to say that people believe in good football, they believe in, especially in Scotland, they believe in physical football and try to win second balls and be strong in the air, which due to his size and due to his assets, that's not his quality. His quality is on the ball, running, be there, the high press. So from that point of view, yeah, he did well in Scotland, but yeah, Rhoda will be much more suitable for him. The last 2 seasons, Rhoda has pushed for Eredivisie twice, and twice 2 years in a row they fell short of it, like in the semi-finals where they actually missed out on it. So it will suit him. It's on the Belgian border. It's actually close to 3 countries. You got Belgium, Luxembourg, and Holland, and you can actually with one step, left, right, and back, you actually in 3 countries in one step. So.
Wow.
It's a very Belgium relaxed part of the country. I think it will suit him. It's not as warm, of course, as here in Australia, but like the competition, it's a much more technical competition than the Scottish League. So if that's something that they're looking at, I think it'd be a great asset for him because technical football of Holland will much more suitable for him. It's a beautiful stadium. It fits, I think, 25,000 plus. And the club, I think they're gonna train the head coach, so it'll be actually a great succession for him because there's no coach with a history who believes in his own players and stuff like that. So that would actually open the gate for him or the door for him even more to actually gain a starting 11 spot, and then yeah, who knows?
Thank you. Because that's Rhoda's near Eindhoven, right?
It's actually near most southern and on the right of Holland. So it's actually near Luxembourg. So Luxembourg is there, and Germany is on the right, and Belgium is underneath. So it's actually the most eastern of Holland, southern and eastern point. So, but it's real good. Like, oh, sorry, Roda. Yeah, yes, like in the area. Yeah, sorry, I'm talking
Yeah.
about Maastricht. Maastricht is a bit more south. But it's Heerlen. So Kalac, Selgo Kalac played there when I played in Holland and against Roda. Kalac was the goalkeeper for Roda JC. So he played there, I think, 3 or 4 years before he went actually to Milan. So very good club, very big history, fantastic stadium. Yeah, so if he can get into the competition there, I think the competition will suit him and the players will like him.
Good.
Excellent.
That's all we've got.
No worries.
Yeah, 19,000.
Beautiful.
Thanks, Patrick. As
Thanks,
always,
guys.
great to chat.
Beautiful. And I'll see you guys.
Around probably Erin Affair again.
Yeah, mainly. Yeah. Still north of Ogre, so it's not too far from me.
We'll have to get
Yeah.
Maxie's phone number off you so we can do a players in elsewhere in the world.
Yeah. Do you want me to ask him if he's okay with that, or you think he's all right?
Yeah. If you could, that'd be great.
Yeah.
We down the track somewhat, but just
Well,
to know that we can contact him.
I got a business in Europe as well, like a sports management business. So we actually see him in 5 days. Like I won't go to Holland, but my business partner, he's
Yep.
actually the assistant coach of Top Os, who plays against Roda SA in the first division, and they play a trial game against Knockbreda. So he'll connect with him because I got a tour from the Caravelle Academy going to Europe, and Maxie's gonna show his face and say hello to the group and
Good.
try to be
Well,
part
that's
of it.
Maxie, isn't it?
Yeah,
No,
there's Australians over there, so that would be great.
it's a Mariners thing, like it's that community contact
Yeah,
and
I caught up with him 2 weeks ago. He actually, because his parents
he's
live in
been
Manly.
Mm.
Yeah, he lives in the Northern Beach, I think is his parents, and then he came actually on the coast to catch up with some of the players here.
Yeah.
So and yeah, he gave me his jersey actually. So I got his
Nice.
radar jersey just to add to the collection. Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's always good to talk to probably one of the, in my personal opinion, top 3 best defenders of the A-League history, in A-League's history.
Yes.
Who's
Mr.
with
Patrick.
me? Who the other two?
Oh,
You
Got
don't
it.
need it. You don't need a top three. You can just have the best one. That doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
absolutely.
Okay,
It's much
yeah.
easier.
And plus, that's my heritage, Dutch
Yeah,
heritage.
no, but I was going to say, there's been a lot of good ones over the years, but yeah, definitely the best.
Oh, here's one question. How many goals have you scored with your feet?
In Australia, I think I scored one in the final series against Brisbane at home. A
Mm.
shot from about 25 meters. In Holland, I think maybe five. I took penalties sometimes, and I know I scored a double against The Hague, where one was with a volley and one was a header. But I think of maybe 60 odd goals, probably 55 would be headers. Yeah. I don't,
And
yeah, it wouldn't even it'd be less than 5%.
Right. Wow.
yeah, and that one against, I remember you took a penalty against Adelaide and scored that.
Yeah, yeah,
You would
Adelaide.
have, and if Eugene got his hand to it, it would have been
Broken
all
his
the
hand.
power behind the kick.
Remember the goal I scored against Sydney FC away? There was Liam Reddy in goals and Brett
Yeah.
Emerton's game against one of his first games for Sydney FC, and I scored the free kick in the top corner, like
Mm.
25 meters, and probably a fluke, but that was a free kick.
It still
Absolutely.
counts.
It counts. It doesn't
It was
matter.
in the, I think it was in the top 10 of best goals in 2012. It's actually there, ninth, I think.
Absolutely.
It's a bomb, and then like Liam Reddy's in goals, who's my mate, so it was like, yeah. Every now and then, I'm trying to find it and send him a little
Send
screenshot.
it to him and give him heaps. One of his boys has now gone into rugby league.
Yeah, well, that's
Ziggy,
his
the
dad.
youngest.
His
Take
dad and
after his uncle.
Ziggy's uncle was playing
Yeah,
as well,
Ziggy's
of
uncle
course.
and granddad.
Granddad Rocket was one of the better ones.
Yeah, the original Rocket Ready.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Just hopefully he doesn't have the ears of his father, otherwise that's where people will tackle him from.
No, they won't grab his ears.
Nah.
All right, thank you so much, Patrick. Always a
Beautiful.
pleasure.
Thanks for your time, guys. I hope
Thank
it's
you.
going to be successful. I'll see you guys soon.
Catch you
Yeah.
later on, Pat.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks. See ya.